everyone, my name is Sloan and I want to give you a very warm welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Sloan's Common Ground. On this channel, we like to live intentionally. We like to stick our hands in some dirt. And today I'm going to be showing you all of my houseplants, of which I have many, as you can see behind me. I gathered them all for this little intro and photo, but when you see them, they'll be in their normal places across my house in Austin, Texas. I moved here just around a year ago, so these have had about a year to settle in. And without further ado, let's get into it. I would love to kick off this tour with the best room in the house, where the majority of my plants are, my sunroom. And I think we'll start with this wall over here. The very first plant we're going to talk about is my philodendron white princess here, which I recently stacked up onto a second moss bowl. And I am finding that although I love this trick of poking holes in the bottom of a plastic cup and putting it on the top of a moss bowl, sometimes they get clogged with stuff like sphagnum moss. And so I put this water in here yesterday and it's just clogged. I have to go rinse it out in order for any water to actually traverse its way down here. But this plant is pretty freaking cool because it has branched all on its own. It's one plant down here at the bottom, but then it's split into kind of two different stalks and it's continued to split. So there's a bunch here and it's just been very, very easy for me. It definitely looks a bit better now that it's up on a pole because the leaves are getting a little bit bigger, but I feel like the variegation is just stunning and I'm excited for hopefully the leaves to continue to get bigger over time. And just in front of it is my syngonium, variegated syngonium. This is such a beautiful plant. I would love to get it on a trellis. I've just been kind of growing it out from cuttings for the last year or so, and so it hasn't been a top priority really because it's been pretty small, but it's pretty big now actually. Might be able to do something with it. And also you're gonna notice a lot of sticky traps. I've been having a fungus gnat problem, so please just ignore the sticky traps. I know they're really gross, but you're getting real life here, and I don't want to deal with the fungus gnats anymore. So we're putting in sticky traps to eradicate the adults. And next to it is my philodendron billietiae, which the leaves are still pretty small on it. I think this one is rather cute. That one's very small, but yeah, this is one of the bigger leaves, maybe this one as well. And it's not currently actually climbing this stake. I feel like it's probably not humid enough in here for it to actually do that, but I would love for that to happen, so we'll see. Then just next to it is my anthurium veitchii, which put out this stunning leaf kind of a while ago. This was its most recent leaf that it put out, but then look here. It is working on a new one and it's from the same stalk that this one came out of. So I'm expecting it to be huge. I guess we will see. I'm pretty excited about that. And behind it is my philodendron glorious, which as you can see, the leaves just keep getting bigger. This is the most recent one and it's always working on another one. It's almost going off of the moss bowl there, but it's still on there. And yeah, it rooted right into the moss bowl pretty much immediately when I took it home, which was pretty awesome. And I anticipate that this is one that once it gets big enough, I probably will put it on the ground and stack it another moss bowl high, like give it 3 moss bowls. Most of my other plants, I'm starting to think about, you know, what am I gonna do when I need a 3rd moss bowl? Like probably I will chop and prop and like chop and extend basically. But with this one, I think we can go 3 moss bowls high. And the goal for a lot of my plants on the moss bowls are really to get them as mature as I can. I haven't gotten any plant as mature as I would like, other than maybe my philodendron gloriosum is very mature. The philodendron gloriosum is my favorite plant, so I love the crosses. It's a cross between, I think, a melanochrysum and the gloriosum. I love all of the crosses. And then just next to it is my monstera lechleriana, which I just think has the most beautiful, luscious green leaves, and it loves to climb. It's so easy to get it to climb up a moss bowl. I had it growing up a plank back in Iowa when I lived there, And yeah, it's super happy. This one does fenestrate if you can get it to maturity, so we'll see if we ever do, but I think it's quite pretty even just on its own. And there's also a lot of different plants in here, at least 3 in there. And just to the left is my amydrium zippelianum variegated. This one was so exciting. Within the last year, I've just started getting way more fenestration. This is such a funky looking plant. Like, look at these. I've just been getting the best leaves. And what actually happened with this one was that I accidentally over fertilized it. And right after I over fertilized it, it started branching, putting out all of these branches. Oh my gosh, you can see there's another leaf coming in there. And that's really when a lot of this fenestrating started happening, which was super exciting. But it also started burning. And so it was not all pros. That's why it's a bit bare down in here as well. There were more leaves that I had to chop off because they did burn, unfortunately. This leaf was rather pretty, but some of it burned and I had to chop some of it off. But all in all, I mean, the over fertilizing kind of worked out, and it's a very, very pretty plant now and much happier than it was before. But I would not recommend over fertilizing your plants generally. And to the left of it is the philodendron splendid. I think this one's a cross between the melanochrysum and the varicosum. Obviously, you know, it looks very similar to the glorious over there, as you can tell. But the big difference is that it's kind of neon. The new leaves are a little bit neon, the backs are a little bit red. And so I just think this one's really pretty, and it's very easy to size up. This is the second time that I've grown one of these up from cuttings and from very small plants. And as you can see, there is a new leaf coming in that looks pretty large, if I do say so myself. So yeah, I'm excited to see this one continue to grow. And I have 2 growing up this moss bowl. Right next to it is my epipremnum skeleton key. This is such a cool plant because as it matures, the leaves actually turn into the shape of skeleton keys. Like, they look like a key that would open, you'd be able to open a door with. And so that's why I have this one climbing, is that I really want to get this one to mature. They also just kind of look a little creepy, the way that their veining looks. So it's a very good, like, spooky Halloween type plant, I would say. I have a few of those. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to that one growing out more. In front of it, I have my philodendron burle marx variegated. And I'm going to be completely honest and say that I haven't even really looked at this plant much at all. I just water it. And so I'm looking at it now, and there's a lot of green leaves in here, and I don't know if it's reverting. This is kind of a plant that's known for reverting. At least it looks like this one. This is its newest leaf on this one, so this piece definitely isn't reverting. I am truly going in such a strange order for this, but my next plant is my philodendron subhastatum, which has this cute little magnet on it. I will link these down below for you guys. They just make plants look extra fun. And this plant is supposed to have red backs, and this is actually like pretty red for me. I found that as this plant matures, it kind of loses the red back. You can see there's very little here as well. This one has like basically none. I did a bunch of research though, and I didn't find anything like online about it, but I'm pretty sure that that is what happens, which is totally fine. I still think I like the shape of the leaf quite a bit, and I still love this plant. Just to the right of it is my anthurium crystallinum, which is my darkest and veiniest plant. I think, actually, I was gonna say anthurium, but I think it is the darkest, veiniest plant I own, which is pretty cool. And I've recently decided that I would like more anthurium with these veins. I think it's very beautiful. I think it's quite striking against all of my other plants as well. And for a while, I've wanted darker anthurium. That is not a surprise, but I've just been really enjoying the veins on this one. And it's growing for me. It's growing kind of slowly, but you know, she has 5 leaves. What more can we ask for? And hiding behind this veitchii leaf, which I'm really not mad at, is one of my mini phalaenopsis orchids. It is not currently blooming. They actually all stopped blooming kind of right at the same time. But this is the only one that I have that is actually potted up in plastic, as you can see here. The other ones I have are in more open pots, so they need to be watered much, much more. But yeah, I'm totally fine with it kind of being hidden for now, because this is definitely a plant I have for the flowers and it's not flowering. So it's totally fine that this leaf is taking up some space above it. So you might remember this plant if you watched my most recent plant chores video. This is my monstera standleyana aurea, and it was in the middle of my dining table, and I thought it was a beautiful statement. But unfortunately, this curvy moss pole, you can't quite see it from that side, but I had to bend it back, as you can see, and it's really just too big for this tiny pot. And so I might try to repot this in a bigger pot and try again. But for now, it definitely works to just have it tied up to this bench, and it still looks pretty cool sitting right here. I have no qualms with it, and I just think this plant has very, very, very gorgeous leaves. I also have a standleyana albo that you'll see later, but the aurea probably is my favorite. And you know, as I'm going through this plant tour, it's having me really think about the plants that I have, because I've been considering downsizing with the idea of, you know, still buying more plants, but just trying to figure out like would I prefer a different plant over this one. And now I'm kind of starting to wonder if I only need the aurea. Maybe I don't need the albo as well. Something that I'm thinking about. Then I have my avocado tree, which is looking so great. This is probably the best that it's ever looked, and it's close to my armpit height, so it's getting taller and taller, which we love to see. And just to the left of it is my fiddly fig bambino, and one of the big projects that I desperately need to do with this is to actually chop the top off of this, because it is absolutely tall enough that I think that it should really branch out at this point. I mean, look at that. Like, it is quite tall and is just looking a little bit crazy, and I think we're at the point that it could look really cool if it looked more like a tree. So that's a future project. If you have ever tried to encourage a fiddle leaf fig to branch out, let me know if you have any good tips. And then over here we have my beautiful philodendron gloriosum. This is my favorite plant in my entire collection, and we are almost at a point where I will be chopping this one up so that I can have multiple. In my last house, I had, I think, 4 at one point, which is definitely my ideal. I've only had this one since moving to Texas, and it's just not enough. I would love to have more. The leaves are huge. They're so velvety and beautiful. And this is the newest leaf, which is definitely a little bit on the smaller side, but I moved it into my sunroom very recently, so I did have it kind of in lower lighting in my office, which you will see, and I'm hoping that my sunroom kind of gives it the perfect conditions. I don't know. This is an understory plant, so in the wild they do grow underneath trees and crawl along the ground, and so they don't need a ton of sunlight. But right now my sunroom is really only getting bright and direct sunlight. It's never going to get direct sunlight here because of the way that the angle of the sun is hitting. I think that my sunroom might be too sunny for it in the winter, so we will see. But summer wise, I'm not getting a ton of direct sun in here, so I think it should be fine. And I'm growing this one actually in a circle around the pot, as you can see. So it went kind of across here, and then it's gone all the way around, and here it is starting to put out a flower, which this is maybe the 3rd or 4th flower that I've gotten from one of these, which I think to me is really a sign that it is quite a mature plant. And full disclosure with this plant, it is a spider mite magnet, and it does have spider mites right now. Just a little shout out for my humidifier, as Texas is very dry, so it is working overtime. Over here next to my soil bin, which doesn't normally stay there, but you know, it's practical. We do use soil, and Winston is also hanging out in here. He loves the sunroom. But yeah, on this little chair, I have first a little bear paw succulent, a variegated one. This hasn't really done too much for me, but it's chilling here looking cute. And then I have a variegated string of pearls. This has grown quite a bit for me over the years, and it's actually starting to trail a little bit, which is fun. And I just think it looks really, really cute in this pot. I'm very happy with it. And then behind it is one of my Christmas cacti. This one is my biggest one, or excuse me, Thanksgiving cactus. I mess that up all the time for some reason. I don't own a single Christmas cactus. They're all Thanksgiving. And the super cool thing about this one is that it is very sun stressed. I actually had it even closer to the window previously. I did just completely deep clean and rearrange this room a little bit, so it has been moved slightly, but it's still, you know, it's almost exactly the same distance actually to the window, so we probably will continue to see a lot of this sun stressing. But yeah, these always flower a lot for me, and this was a plant that was left for us when we bought our first house, and so it has some nice sentimental memories associated with it. Right here is my other mini phalaenopsis orchid. Again, this one is also not blooming right now, but I do think that the pot that it is in is super cute, although I have to water it all the time. What are you? I don't think I've ever seen him lay here. This is odd. What are you doing, bud? Okay, behind my orchid, I have my String of Hearts Silver Glory. And look at how long this is. It is practically touching the ground. It's also almost always blooming these purple flowers and is just generally quite happy. I repotted this year, and I just think it looks so good in this pot. I think that this is a plant that I might put in a hanging basket soon. I currently don't have any hooks in the ceiling or the walls in this room, but I think I'm going to be renovating, not really renovating, kind of doing a refresh to this room. The walls are white and they are matte, and so they just get really dirty, and then they're very hard to clean, and I can't take it anymore. And so I think it's about time that we paint this entire room. I've been putting it off because I just couldn't decide what color or colors, but I think I just need to pick something and run with it, and I can always change it. And then I'm thinking when I do that, I'll probably add in some hooks to hang plants and do like a full makeover. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and stick around for that. But yeah, this is definitely a top contender for a hanging plant for sure, especially because it's getting to be too long to even sit on this table. Then I very recently added my Hoya obovata to this little boho peacock chair stand, and I can't believe it has taken me this long to put this plant here because I think it is just so cute and perfect in this chair. I had different plants here, but I mean, this is gonna stay here for a long time. And this is actually growing for me so much, like probably the most it's ever grown for me. This is another one that I've been growing in from cuttings since I moved last year. But yeah, it's looking so good, and it's in this cute Le Creuset pot. And I also like that I've lifted it up from this yellow table, which is a table we got from Facebook Marketplace. It's a 50s little diner table, and I love it. I think it's perfect in this room and just very happy. But obviously having a yellow pot on a yellow table, like, you just really can't see it very well, and so I love having it kind of perched up on this peacock chair. I think it's so cute, and we have some new growth coming in right there. I don't know how well we're focusing, but I also don't want to break the leaf, so that's the best we're probably gonna get. And then to the left of it is my Sansevieria pinguicula. This was a wish list plant for me for the longest time. I love this plant. I think this angle probably gives you the best view, so maybe I need to turn it. But it's known as the walking Sansevieria because as it grows, its roots kind of do this, so it looks like it's walking out of the pot, and I just think it's so freaking cool. This is a plant that I got locally at a plant shop here in Austin that I haven't been to in months, so maybe a plant shopping trip is in order. Right here I have 3 cacti that my mom brought back for me from Arizona, and this one in particular is quite tall. These haven't been repotted in years, and I've just been kind of scared to repot them, but I'm feeling like it's probably about time, like especially with how tall that one is. But I'm just kind of like sad to move them out of this pot. So I don't know, let me know how often you repot your cacti. Like, should I be repotting them every few years? How long can they last in here? I feel like it's probably time. And then just next to it, this is so backlit and I don't know what to do about it, but I have my golem jade. I have a bunch in here. I fairly recently repotted these and I have a bunch of these pots. You've maybe noticed a couple of them. I got these from a family friend and I love them so much, but I did have to stake this plant up to try to get the roots to kind of actually grow out so that it could grow in this super shallow pot. And I think they're there. I think I could probably take the stakes out at this point, but they're there just in case while this plant still is sort of settling in. And then over here, I have my one large phalaenopsis orchid. This orchid is also not blooming, as you can see, but when it is blooming, it is the exact same flowers that my husband and I had in our wedding, and so it's very special to me. And I love that all of the orchid roots are growing out of the pot like this. I think it looks kind of fun, a little creepy. I have had people be like, what are those? They're orchid roots. They're just orchid roots. There are kind of a lot of plants in this little corner, so it's a little difficult to show, but I have a little jade forest kind of hiding under here. There are 3 jade plants in this pot, and I'm hoping to grow them and train them kind of like you would for bonsai, but I have not done that yet, and so far they're just kind of sitting in here, but that's a future project. And then to the left is my jade plant, and this is my mother jade plant. It is absolutely growing insanely. I know a lot of people would not like this look, but this was a jade plant. My husband had one in his family for years and years, and this is kind of what it looked like. And so I really just want to leave this one this way. I know a lot of people would prune it. It's kind of turned into almost like a trailing jade, and I really prioritize giving this one as much sun as possible, and that's why it's right up in the window. And yeah, it's still not really growing straight up, but I don't mind at all. And then right here I have my banana tree, which is looking a little bit thirsty. It tends to kind of curl in like this when it's thirsty, and this desperately needs repotted because I am always watering it. But this is one that I have grown multiple times where the mother plant, I get it to be pretty large, and then the mother plant dies, but a smaller plant kind of grows in on the side, a little pup, and so then I grow the pup out, and I don't know, this is probably like the 3rd time that that's happened, and I just think that's a really cool little cycle. So hopefully this mother plant lasts a while. This is about a year old. I actually separated the pup from the mother when we moved so that I didn't have to take a big plant. And yeah, I think it would have grown more if it wasn't potted in a porous pot. This is one that when I do repot it, I'm going to prioritize putting it in something that is non-porous like ceramic or plastic. Right here is my non-variegated string of pearls. These were a gift to my husband years and years ago for Valentine's Day. And this one is also in one of the beautiful pots that we got from a family friend. And this one actually has no roots. I've been really slowly trying to grow the roots in on this. It's been like this for months, and so it's still alive. I guess I should say it surely has some roots now, but when I put it in this pot, it didn't have any roots. I was just trying to grow it out. And so I just water this as much as I can. If I misted it, that would probably help. But yeah, hopefully, I'm really hoping this eventually gets roots and can kind of grow out more. The most plump pearls are right here on the side. The rest are, not very plump, so we'll see what this one ends up looking like. Right here, I have my Hoya Hushkaliana, and I think this is the only Hoya that I have right now that is flowering. They aren't fully open yet, but these blooms smell like popcorn, which I just think is so fun. And obviously the leaves on this plant are quite pretty. They look like watercolor, and this is huge in comparison to when I first got it. When I first got this plant, it was like 2 teeny little cuttings, or maybe 1 teeny little cutting, and so I'm super happy with how it's looking. and it's really happy since I repotted it into something bigger. Believe it or not, this is a bigger pot than what it was in before, even though it's still a very small pot. And I also just think it looks really good. The little brass feet here, and I'm happy to kind of have it in a prominent space on this table. Why you look so sad, buddy? Also on the chair, I have my variegated fiddle leaf fig. This is one of my favorite plants. I just think it's super beautiful and super underrated. Also pretty easy. It's kind of thirsty a lot of the time, so I do try to keep it pretty well watered, but other than that, you know, just as easy as any other fiddle leaf fig, I would say. And this leaf is obviously gorgeous, hoping for more perfect leaves like that. I actually have a lot of plants on this little chair. Here I have my burro's tail succulent. This thing is very thirsty. It's also in a teeny tiny pot, so I'm sure that is part of it. But ideally I would love to have kind of a big hanging basket of this, and so as little pieces fall off, I just plop them right back in. And as you can see, they are growing a little bit in there. And so maybe eventually I'll have a bigger plant. This was one that I got for free for spinning a wheel at a local plant shop. So that was a pretty cool way to get a new plant. And then here I have my Hoya compacta that has the biggest peduncle ever, because this thing is always blooming. Not really, because it's obviously not blooming right now, but this needs repotted so badly. I feel like I said that in my last plant tour and I still haven't repotted it. It's so hot in Texas that I really haven't wanted to repot anything. Absolutely the only time that I could would be early in the morning, and that's just not my ideal time to repot. And so I've been waiting, but I think I'm going to get a little repotting station and put it in the sunroom, and then maybe I'll repot my plants indoors instead. I just generally prefer repotting outside because it makes less of a mess, but if I can get a good potting station, then maybe I will be able to do so indoors and I won't be neglecting so many of my repots. Because another plant that needs repotted is my variegated Thanksgiving cactus. I love this plant so much, but it's definitely outgrowing this little pot, and I have a bunch of cuttings that you're gonna see later that I need to pot up with it, so hopefully eventually I'll get there. But this has cute little light pink blooms and I just love it. And then hiding back here, I just have a little barrel cactus that I've also been thinking recently I should probably repot, because I've had it for years and I've never repotted it, and it's also never grown for me. And so maybe I will repot, put it in that little snail pot. Actually, that'd be really cute. That's a great idea. I probably will do that. Here on the ground, I have the plant that I forget the name of most often. I think it's a philodendron plowmanii, but I will put on the screen what it is for sure. And this is another crawling philodendron that I've been growing in a circle. And this is another plant that has spider mites. This one has some residue on it right now. You can see like white residue. I think it's just from the spray that I used earlier today. I'm assuming. I really don't know what else would be going on with that white residue that wasn't there before. But I love the texture of these. I just love a pillowy leaf. I think these are so cool. But what really sold me is how crazy these stems are. They are so flat. They're such a flat stem. And I'd like to get this one growing probably not in a circle, probably lengthwise in a pot, and see if I can get this one to size up, because obviously, as you can tell, the leaves have really stayed about the same size. And so I want to see if just really focusing, like taking a top cutting and really focusing on trying to size this one up will work out. I don't really know, but I haven't really focused on this plant much, so hopefully in the future I will be able to do that. And then here in one of my favorite pots in my entire collection, I have my ficus Audrey, and I'm so excited about this plant because this was such a slow grower for me for a long time. And one thing about ficus is that they do really have to settle in, is what I like to say. Like, especially after you repot them, they just need a lot of time to get comfy, get settled before they're really gonna start pushing out growth. But this one has responded very, very well to fertilization, to the point that it actually started branching out on its own, which is crazy. So this branch is completely brand new. There was no branch there before. This is also a new little branch, and that was just the power of fertilization. Oh, it looks like there's another little branch under there. Like, this is so cool. And then you can see I've had some new growth here as well. So here's hoping we get even more new growth from this one and that it keeps growing. A lot of this is from a couple of months ago, and so I haven't really seen a ton of growth since then, but I also kind of stalled on my fertilization the last couple of months just because I got really busy, and I'm picking it back up again. So probably I will start to see more growth on all of my plants going forward. And then I have a tall plant here. This is my Dracaena marginata. Maybe you can see it the best from like this angle. This is a plant that my husband picked out, and we specifically picked it out for the living room, which was definitely something I was going to test out. Our living room is very dark. We'll get in there and you'll see it. But before we really even had it in the living room, I accidentally overwatered this so hard. I am not an overwaterer, but so I think because of that, I was just really trying to focus on watering this. But it was a plastic pot sitting in a cash pot, and basically I watered it too much, and then all the water was stuck in the pot and had nowhere to go. And so unfortunately, that's how it's only one stalk now. This did have 3 stalks in here, and I did just cut off the second stalk recently, and so we just have the one, but it's still cute. I would love to kind of make this look like 3 again, and so I'll probably keep an eye out at my local nurseries to see if I can add a couple of these back in, but I definitely like the height that it brings for sure. So for now, it's fine. Poplar has made an appearance. She loves the sunroom. Next, we just have this little section, which I just kind of set up, and I feel like it looks so cute. A little sitting area. Poplar loves to sit in the papasan chair and look out the window at the backyard. And over here, I have very different plants over here. So before on this little table, I had all of my cacti and succulents and stuff, but I recently decided to move those to the yellow diner table, and this also was kind of pushed in the corner, and so it was getting a ton of sunlight, but now it's really only getting east morning sunlight, and so I can put really any plant over here. So over here I have my anthurium serrano, which I bought for these cutie purple flowers, and it has been flowering for me a lot, which I love. And overall the foliage is also quite pretty and green. But yeah, I think this one, I originally potted it up in this pot and knew that the pot was kind of too small for it, and you know, I should probably repot it already into something bigger, but so far it is fine, and it's definitely getting more sunlight right now, being boosted up on this table. And behind it, I have my philodendron squamiferum, which this is the newest leaf on this guy. I think these have just the coolest stems, and I'm hoping to get this one climbing up this stake, but obviously I need to actually attach it to the stake for that to happen. And the humidity in here, I actually have this humidity reader that is placed far away from the, it's slowly getting more humid because I'm holding it, but it's far away from the humidifier, and so this is a more accurate reading of what it looks like across the room. And as it goes down, because I'm not holding it right where the sensor is, you can see that it's definitely not super duper humid over here, and so I'm not really sure if the stake things are going to work out or if I'm going to eventually just be putting this on a moss bowl, but for now it saves me the trouble of having to keep another moss bowl watered. And right here I have my anthurium silver blush, which desperately needs repotted. This plant is always flowering for me though, which I love. It's covered in pollen right now, as you can see, and it's looking a little droopy, and so I will probably get this watered ASAP after filming this. Look at that. Behind her, I have my philodendron painted lady on a moss pole. I have not gotten this one to grab onto the moss. Actually, kind of looks like we're grabbing on there. So that's an improvement. That's exciting. Oh, look at this. Look at how nice that looks. I've kind of struggled with keeping this moss bowl watered for whatever reason. It's been a bit of a struggle and it dries out a lot, but I've been focusing on it more lately and that seems to be working, which is exciting. And then over here, even though I have recently watered this, it's looking a little droopy for some reason. Not sure what that's about. I have my monstera standleyana albo, and it is growing all the way up this moss pole. We obviously have, you know, just a big stem there. And then over here, it's kind of climbing off of it. And I got this beautiful half moon leaf. And I also have a second cutting on this side. This is actually my favorite cutting that I have. And it kind of looks like maybe it is going to climb up the pole. It's really sticking flat on it right there, and so maybe it will stay on. But yeah, the more I think about this one, the more I'm like, do I need this if I have my beautiful aurea? I don't know. Let me know if you think I should keep both or if I'm just good with the one, because I'm gonna have to do something with this at some point because it's just coming off of the stake, although it looks kind of cool over here, which is why I have it over there. But yeah, we'll see. And then just in front of it, I have my philodendron Summer Glory, which is my other philodendron gloriosum cross. This is a cross between the gloriosum and I believe the Macaulay's finale plant. And so because of the Macaulay's finale parentage, this actually is not a crawler. It is a mounding philodendron. And so you can see there's just like, you know, kind of a mound of plants in the middle. I do have this very lightly staked up because otherwise it just falls over, but it is working on this new leaf. The new leaves always come in pretty red. You can kind of see there sort of what they look like. This one's also fairly new. We're working on a new one here. That one's a bit more green though. But yeah, this one's looking big. This plant can actually get huge, like very close in size to my philodendron gloriosum. And so I would love to see this one be massive as well. So we're just gonna keep growing it, keep hoping for that growth. And my very last plant in my sunroom is my monstera constellation. I got this when all of the tissue cultured monstera constellations became available, and I was so excited to get one of my own. And it has been such a slow grower for me, but steady. And for a long time in this house, actually, I think the entire time that I've lived here, I've had this in my office with a grow light clipped on it, and I just really decided that I didn't like how that looked. I think that because the grow light was shining directly down on top of it, that caused a lot of the leaves to kind of be flat like a dinner plate, and I just think that this kind of plant looks better when they're facing like this instead of like this. And so I'm hoping that by moving it into the sunroom, the new leaves that come out are kind of faced flat a little bit more with the window. But I don't really know, because I know monstera albos can grow a bit more flat, but Thai constellations, you know, I do feel like I see flat ones of those too. So I guess that we will just have to see. And I'm really excited to share that right after I moved this into the sunroom, I started getting a new leaf, which was absolutely amazing because I haven't had a new leaf on this plant in months. So I'm very excited about that. And it does look like it's probably going to be pretty marbly, which is probably my favorite. Like a leaf like this, I love, and probably prefer over a leaf like this. I mean, a leaf like this, absolutely stunning, but it's just kind of hard to see when they're so flat. So really hoping to get more of a like vertical flatness to this plant instead of horizontal soon. Next, I'd like to show you some of the plants in my dining room. So up here on my arcade cabinet is my goldfish plant, the Columbia nementanthus. And this plant loves this Sansu grow light so much. You can really tell, it's kind of hard the way the lighting is, but this is all of the old kind of unhappy growth versus all of the growth up there that's just super happy growing straight up. It's just so much happier since I started actually prioritizing the light that I'm giving it. And I'm really hoping that it blooms for me because the blooms on this are just so cute. They're these little goldfish looking blooms. That's where the name comes from. So cross your fingers for me. On this little bookshelf, I just moved this plant over here actually. So this is kind of a new place for it, but this is my Marble Queen pothos, which is in this super cute bird planter, which I just really feel like makes a statement, and it's kind of starting to trail a little bit. I anticipate that this plant is going to outgrow this planter pretty quickly because it's so shallow, but for the time being, it's still happy, and I'm excited to see it trail a bit more. It's definitely very full, which I love. And the last two plants in this room are on my dining table. If you watched one of my recent videos, we actually staked up a plant on my dining table, and it is no longer here, as I mentioned, because it kept falling over. So this is what's here now. Over here I have a monstera adansonii, which is growing quite a bit, and I really don't know what I want to do with this. I feel like maybe I want to grow it like up a wall or something. I really don't want to put it on a moss pole, but I kind of don't love how these look trailing most of the time, so I don't know, let me know if you have any ideas. And then on this side is my global green pothos, which is also really starting to trail and have some shape to it, which I love. I love having lots of different kinds of pothos around the house, especially in areas where the lighting is not super, super bright. And I find as long as I keep them watered, they're pretty happy no matter what the lighting conditions are like. We're kind of bouncing around here, but that's okay because there's no specific order. And next I want to show you all the plants that I keep in my office, which are all kind of near my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. I have the IKEA Fabricor cabinet, which is tall and skinny, and I love it. But up on top, I have this Tradescantia yellow hill, which is getting washed out a little bit by the Scentsy grow light that it's under. But I promise this is quite, oh my goodness, I should have seen that coming. Okay, I switched it over to that other plant there, but rest assured, this is very yellow. It is also needing a repot. Oh my gosh, as you can see, it is quite a lot of plant for this tiny pot, and I would just generally, there we go. You can really see some of the coloring there, but yeah, it's looking a little bit yellow in not a cute way at the top. It's more yellow in a cute way towards the bottom, and that's because I just think this guy needs a repot, which is totally fine. Adding it to the list. And then just next to it, I have my epipremnum pinnatum albo. You can see, oh, this leaf is absolutely beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, and I have been getting like these big long stems without leaves, but then this threw out a leaf right there at the very end. And so I was going to chop and prop these, or at least chop them. I mean, this one, there's like one leaf here, and then, so I'm not really sure what that is about. If you know why this plant does this, let me know so then I can do whatever I need to do to get it to stop, because I would really prefer to have like a big full basket of this, like a pothos, versus having it grow up something. But I don't know if it has to grow up something or otherwise it's going to do this. Yeah, let me know if you have any tips here. I don't know, because it should also be getting some lights from the cabinet too, so like both above but also like inside the cabinet. So I would think it would be enough, but I guess not, or I don't know what's going on. But anyway, let's open up the cabinet. Obviously, the sticky traps are unsightly, especially with how small some of the plants are in here. But again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm just really, really trying to get a handle on the fungus gnats, and if that means I have to put sticky traps everywhere, that means I put sticky traps everywhere. Here I have my variegated Hoya Bella. This is what she's looking like. It has actually been growing for me a bit more than normal, which is nice. This got mealybugs like the second I took it home, which is obviously not ideal, but it is doing much better now. And also after moving it into the greenhouse cabinet, I think it's enjoying it. I think at some point I'd like to do like somewhat of a revamp of this cabinet, but I don't know what that will look like. I'm not entirely sure, but just like moving around some plants and stuff like that. My Hoyas always love it in here, so I tend to try to keep as many Hoyas in here as possible. But here is my variegated Hoya polyneura, which is really, really beautiful. I have 2 Hoya polyneras. My other one was getting a little too much sun, I think, from my Barina grow lights, and so I moved it into my bathroom, and it seems to be doing a bit better, but this one is still enjoying the cabinet, so still keeping it in here. I also have an entire video on my IKEA greenhouse setup that I will link down below for you guys if you're interested in seeing more about how I put together this cabinet. I will say Barina lights now apparently are magnetic, so you don't have to do the workarounds that I did in order to get mine to stick. But here we have a Hoya Margophylla albo, which this is the best this plant has ever looked. I think it is so, so pretty. This also usually flowers for me, but I've been growing this out from cuttings for a little under a year, I guess I would say. But yeah, I got this plant started out as cuttings from a friend, so obviously very fun to have still in the collection. I am dying with these sticky traps trying to get these plants in and out. Oh my goodness. Oh, they're just sticking to everything. Okay. So first off, look at these roots. Look at the roots coming out of the bottom. This is my, what is this called? Hoya multiflora. This is a plant that is known for its gorgeous flowers, and mine has flowered for me once. It definitely has a peduncle in there, and I'm looking forward to it flowering some more, but so far it's really only flowered the one time, and I don't know about you guys, but I think she's ready for a repot. I think it's also liking the extra humidity here in this cabinet for sure. And then just behind that plant is my Tridescanthia Pink Panther, which is very crispy if you look actually in here, and not doing too hot, definitely needs repotted. However, it looks so cute as hair on this pot, and so there it is living, there it is staying for now. I would love to get it repotted in something, like, I'm gonna pull this out and you're gonna be like, that plant looks terrible. It definitely looks best sitting in the plant versus when it's taken out of, the pot versus when it's taken out of the pot, but this is what we are working with. I would love to get this in a pot that is kind of the same size so it still fits in that planter, but deeper, but I don't have one, so I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. Honestly, this would not be a bad one to just try to take some cuttings of and restart. It's also feeling dry, so I should probably water that later today for sure. Then on this next level, I have 3 plants. We will start out with my chocolate aglaonema. I think this is a very beautiful plant, but I've really struggled with it, and that's why I moved it into the greenhouse cabinet, hoping that it would do a bit better. I think I'm probably going to end up repotting it just because it's been a while and this plant isn't doing very well, and I just want to take a look at the roots. Maybe it needs a smaller pot, just not really sure what's going on there. I've also considered chopping and propping it just because it is kind of such a long empty stem, but haven't decided yet. Let me know if you have experience with aglaonema, and I don't know, what would you try it? It really hasn't responded much to being in the greenhouse cabinet. This leaf, it's been working on this leaf since before I put it in here, and it's probably been in the cabinet for a month or 2, so it's had some time and it's just not doing anything. Then right behind her I have my syngonium pink splash, which this was featured in a recent video that I did that was my most expensive plants, if you can believe it. This is one of my top 3 most expensive plants. It was a lot bigger when I purchased it, in her defense, but yeah, she's looking quite cute. I believe there's a little root poking out the bottom there, and I would like to get this one repotted as well and eventually start chopping and propping it so I can have a big bush of this plant because I just love it. Then we have my pitcher plant, which doesn't have any full pitchers on it at the moment, so we're kind of waiting on that. But there are some like little baby pitcher plants in there, and so far it's doing okay. I'd really ideally, I think, like to move this. Oh my gosh, this looks kind of like a pitcher. I think it is working on one. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that looks like the start of a pitcher. This one has never had a pitcher. I've had it for like a year now, not quite. So we wait, but yeah, I think ideally I'd like to move it to my sunroom. It would definitely get a bit more attention in my sunroom. I feel like my greenhouse cabinet plants, I always think, they're fine because it's more humid in here. And so they just don't get the attention that my sunroom plants get because I'm in my sunroom every single day. I'm also not in this room every single day. And as you can tell, this one has some crispy tips. I'm not really sure what that was about, if it just dried out too much or what, but I do have it potted up in a mix of sphagnum and perlite, so I don't know. I think that's okay. The pictures coming in are a good sign to me for sure. And then we just have the very last row, the very last shelf of the cabinet where I have 4 different plants. This is my Rhaphidophora decursiva, and this is my only plant that's in here in a moss pole. But the one thing that I love about the Fabricore is that it's really easy to have plants on a moss pole because it's so tall. I could have, this one here, but easily instead of my chocolate aglaonema, I could have another moss pole plant. And I find the Barina grow lights to be very strong. Like, I can really only put Hoya on the top shelf for the most part, and so I think it's okay down here. They don't get a ton of light. Ideally, I would love for them to get more light, but if I put more Barinas on like this half shelf, then that would mean that I could really only have Hoyas on this shelf too, just because they're so strong in my opinion, in my experience. But yeah, this decursiva has put out a couple leaves, but it's been relatively slow growing. I would actually say that pretty much everything in my cabinet is very slow growing. I was recently pondering this and wondering why, and I just really don't know. I don't know if it's that I don't water them enough in here, so hopefully, I guess my Hoyas definitely grow somewhat quickly, but like everything else in my cabinet, I just feel like doesn't grow very quickly. So I don't know, but we're still trying to get this one to grow out. I just think their leaves are so shiny and beautiful, whether they have the fenestrations or not. So we'll just keep waiting. And then just in front of her, I have just my regular green Hartley philodendron. I've actually found this to be kind of a difficult plant, and that's why it's in the greenhouse cabinet. That's definitely part of the reason why some of my plants in here grow really slowly, is that they're problem plants. Like, I do tend to put plants that need a little extra love and attention in here. But my Rhaphidophora decursiva, that is not the case. It's just in there for fun, to have something with a moss pole in there. I also like having plants with moss poles in a cabinet because they put off a lot of humidity, I guess I would say, which is good in a cabinet for sure. But yeah, it is growing for me finally, which is good news, if you can believe it. It's actually bigger than it was before. And then right here, I have my anthurium fingers, which I'm actually very, very excited about because, as you can see, I've got a new leaf coming in there. Their leaves come in so fun and funkily. I do think that this one needs a repot. I think that it's root bound in here. This is also a vintage planter, which I just love so much. Like, I don't see roots coming out the bottom, but just the way that this plant is behaving, it's like getting crispy. I do think that this one just needs more humidity generally, but I think that it also has to do with it just needing a fresh repot. And there are a couple little pins in here, so this one's very much a little baby, but this one has the bigger leaves for sure. I wonder if it would respond well if I just like chopped this one off, because that one's not looking too hot, I have to say. And then my very last plant in this cabinet is my Pothos Enjoy, which definitely is needing repotting. It's kind of hard to tell because this pot is porous, and so it's like pulling out a lot of the moisture to the outside, but there's like one big long root running along the bottom. I think this one could probably use a repot, surprisingly. I actually have kind of found that a lot of my plants in the cabinet are putting out a lot of roots, but not necessarily a ton of foliage, which is kind of interesting. I don't really know why that is, but yeah, I love having pothos. They are so easy, and I think they're also beautiful, so it's just like, might as well have a ton of them in my collection. Next, I wanted to show you the one plant that is in my entryway, which you are getting such a sneak peek right now for the makeover that I'm working on in here. So if you like the very little amount that you're seeing right now, like the color of the walls, keep an eye out for a little makeover video that I'm filming in my entryway. I promise there's more to it than just painting the walls. But anyway, this is an anthurium, just a regular old anthurium that my mom gave my husband years ago, and I just put it here, just put it under a Sansi grow light, so I'm really hoping that it likes the grow light and maybe it will even flower for me. But for right now, it's a really beautiful green that I think looks beautiful against the new kind of purpley blue periwinkle walls that I've painted in here, which these are the first walls in my house that are not white, so I'm stoked about that. I'm so excited to have colored walls again. Next, I thought it'd be good to show you the plants in my living room, and we're gonna start out with this cabinet. This is where we keep our records, our record player, all of those sorts of things. And right now it is also storing 4 of the plants that I have targeted to give away that I'm planning on not keeping anymore. And so we'll start us out right here with this syngonium 3 Kings. I do think this is a pretty plant. I'm just not really in love with it, and I think that I could probably trade it out for a plant that I might like a little bit more. It's kind of unfortunate living far away from family though, because I know that my grandma really likes this plant, and so I would love to just give it to her, but she's in Iowa and I'm in Texas. And also I think she has cuttings of it. I'm pretty sure that I did give her cuttings of it, but yeah, it's just gonna have to go be given away to someone here in Texas instead. And then I also here have my philodendron oxypopensae, and I really like all of these plants. I just think I could probably have a plant that I would like a little bit more. Let me turn off this light. There, I think that's a bit easier to see. Probably would have been easier to see the 3 Kings as well with that light off, but oh well. Yeah, the oxypopensae, it's a pretty plant, but I actually was looking at photos of what this looks like mature, and I just was like, I don't think I really care about it that much, and I would rather have some other cool plant on a possible. So I will be giving this one away as well. And then I have my philodendron white knight, I believe, is over here. And this is one that I've thought about giving away for quite some time. Actually, even before I moved to Texas. I just like my white princess so much more, and I really don't care about this plant, but I decided to keep it for another year for some reason. And yeah, I'm done with it now, ready to give it away as well. And then this is a plant, you guys, if you watch my channel, you might remember. This is my Jose Buono, and I've kept it for a while just because it was nice to have a green plant with some foliage. It was sitting on the edge of my bookshelf like this, which is obviously quite nice to have a pretty green plant on a bookshelf just like this, but it was getting to where it was just a little bit too tall for the bookshelf, and I have been planning on giving it away for some time just because if you've seen Jose Buonos, they can have very beautiful variegation, not this one. And so if I want to do a Jose Buono again, I just really like something that has better variegation. So this will also be going to a loving home somewhere here in Texas. And then over by my TV, I have my begonia beefsteak, and these are not grow lights underneath this lamp. It's just regular old light bulbs, but I swear something about this light, this beefsteak is really loving. It is growing so much. Look at all that new growth. And this is a rhizomatic begonia, and so it's not a cane begonia. I also have one cane begonia, and those kind of grow up straight, whereas these grow in kind of a mounding shape. And I love rhizomatic begonia. I think that they are so fun. Their growth pattern is super, super easy. And this is just a really beautiful begonia. Look at how beautiful the leaves are back there. Super red. Love it. On the other side, kind of to keep things symmetric, I guess, I have my Manjula pothos, which is really, really starting to grow out for me. I think these are really pretty and kind of look like watercolor paintings. And then I've been keeping my peace lily here in this corner pretty much since we moved here, and it's been very happy, even though it gets basically no light. Actually, not even basically. This thing gets zero light whatsoever, but it does have, again, this lamp nearby, so I guess that's good enough for it. And I have another one of my little magnets on there looking super cute, but this is a variegated peace lily, so a lot of the leaves end up looking like this. I just think They're so beautiful and the flowers smell amazing. I think this is a really underrated plant, honestly. And I recently restyled my mantle in my living room. We have this big fireplace, but it's so white. I actually have big plans to do something with this fireplace. I would never paint brick also, but it's already painted. Anyway, I recently found out that there was actually a hook for a painting already in the bricks, and so I hung that painting, but as you can see, it's not symmetrical, and so I tried to just style around that, and that included putting my golden pothos up here, which also worked out because it is really starting to branch out and get quite large. I am so sure that this is full of roots in that tiny little pot and will need repotted eventually, but for now I just think it looks so good on my mantle, and I'm pretty excited about it. And the last plant here in my living room, which as you can see, my living room backs into the sunroom, is my begonia maculata, which is getting indirect light from the sunroom lights. And this has been growing so much for me. I recently moved it in here. It was actually in the sunroom, but it seems to be doing totally fine out here. I do really need to get this staked up a bit more. As you can see, the stakes end here, and this is a caning begonia, and so they like to have a little bit of support, but I'm not doing that right now, and it's doing fine, so I'm calling that a win. And my living room is open to my kitchen, so I thought that next I could show you all of my kitchen plants. And I recently moved this over here. This is my caladium lindenii. I think this is a super easy plant. It's very striking, and yeah, it's basically doesn't need a ton of light, and I don't have to water it super often. It can get spider mites, but honestly it bounces back really quickly. This is just a really great plant. And then over on this shelf, which I love the open shelving in my kitchen, it's a little bit maximalist at the moment. I should probably style it because we added these cups in here more recently. These are the cups we used to toast with at our wedding. Because we love coffee and have loved coffee like the entire time my husband and I have been together, so we thought that would be fun, but I need to like kind of reorganize it. Just got a little bit too much going on. But anyway, I've had this plant here basically since we moved in. This is the Dracaena Janet Craig, which if you have followed my channel for a couple of years, you know that this is the plant of the year for 2024. Every year I do a plant shopping video where I go find whatever the plant of the year is. And this was 2024, as we haven't hit 2025s yet. But I'll point it out to you once we get over there. And so it kind of has a special place in my heart because filming that video was super special, and I don't know, I love having a green plant, like just a nice green plant, and that's definitely what that one is here. And it looks great in that pot. Obviously it would look better without the sticky trap, but you're getting real life. I know I keep saying that, but it's quite annoying to have all these sticky traps. I don't love it. Next, I want to show you where I keep all of my propagations, which is right up here on my kitchen sink. And one thing I love too about keeping my watering can here is that I can reach it from inside the sunroom because we keep this door open. And so I can fill it up with water and then set it here, and then grab it from the inside, and when it's empty, set it here too. I don't know why, that just makes it so much easier for me. I guess it's because I don't have to walk around our big peninsula that we have in the kitchen, but definitely recommend little hacks like that to make your life easier. But right here I have my Marimo moss ball, which needs some more water. I actually have been keeping up with changing the water on this more recently, and I really want to get it in some kind of cute setup, but for now, it's just in a mason jar. And then here I have a few of my Thanksgiving cacti cuttings. These have obviously rooted in so much, very much ready to be potted in with the mother plant, and that's another reason why I was saying I desperately need to be potting that one up. And then here I have my Aglaonema pictum tricolor, and I'll talk more about this plant when we get to the bottom portion of it and why I have a cutting of it. But as you can see, what a beautiful leaf. This is such a beautiful plant. I found this to be quite easy as well. I'm gonna see if it has any roots. I've actually never propagated an Aglaonema, and I'm not seeing any roots, so we will continue waiting. And then here I have a Sansevieria pinguicula cutting. This, I think, fell off my mother plant. I don't really remember what happened, but obviously the roots are crazy, very much ready to be potted up as well. And then on this other side, I have a Hoya compacta cutting to pot in with the mother plant. There's a teeny little new leaf there, which is cute. It's definitely ready to go in there. When I said I have lots of repotting to do, this is what I'm talking about. Then I have a Hoya Wilbur Graves. This has been a wish list plant for me, and it has been in water for months, since the winter. So we need to get on potting this up, and hopefully it won't be too shocked. And then here I have a cutting from my grandma. This is a jungle cactus. The one that she has is so tall, it hits the ceiling in her house, but I don't actually know what type of cactus this is. I'm almost completely certain that it's a jungle cactus, but just not sure of the type. So if you recognize the type of jungle cactus this is, definitely let me know. I would love to know what it is. We simply cannot forget my ponytail palm, which is hanging out outside. It has been growing so much since I put it out here, which I am absolutely stoked about, and it's in, again, one of my favorite pots. And this is actually the only houseplant that I have outside. Next year, I'd love to put more of them outside, but I need to get some kind of stand for them. Here in my bathroom, which it's always hard to show plants in the windowsill, so let me pick this guy up. This is my Hoya quinquenervia, which is my only plant in pon, and I'm actually planning on taking this out of pon because it is very much root bound up in there, and I just don't know. I don't know how to do things with pon, and I kind of just don't want to deal with it, and I just want to go to my regular plant in soil. And so that's what I'm going to do, because I don't have fertilizer that works for pon. I don't have any more pon to be able to up pot this. I don't have other pots to get this to work in pon. So I don't know, maybe at some point I'd like to try more plants in pon, but not with this one. She's going into dirt. Then over here is my Hoya polynura. This is my non-variegated version, but as you can see, some of the leaves got pretty bleached. I think those are from the Barina grow lights just being super duper strong, and so that's a big reason that I moved it into the bathroom. It's still sitting in a super bright window, and so it's still getting a lot of light, but it hasn't put out any new leaves since I moved it out here, so we'll see if she likes this new space. She also has a lot of roots in there, just like my other plant that's in the cabinet that's in one of these pots, so probably needs a repot anyway. Over here next to my shower is where I keep my Calathea rattlesnake, and I potted this one up in a self-watering pot, and it really hasn't grown much since I put it in here, so I don't know if it's just settling in or if it doesn't like the self-watering pot. It wasn't in one before, but time will tell, I suppose. For now, it's just living next to the shower, looking beautiful. Would love this for this to be huge though, so we'll see. It's getting bright. I'd say medium indirect, maybe slightly bright indirect light, so not a ton of light, but should be enough for a prayer plant. And in my other bathroom, I have 3 plants. Again, very difficult to show with the lighting, but this is my other Thanksgiving cactus, and it also puts off beautiful blooms for me and is just rather cute. When I bought it, I thought it was variegated as well, but it is not. I think it was just so underwater that it looked variegated, which is crazy that that can happen. But yeah, I'm actually considering taking this one to work, but I don't know if I'm gonna get the best lighting at my work desk. And one other thing I love about this plant is just the patina on the terracotta pot. I think this is my prettiest terracotta pot, and I will keep it forever, even though it's kind of a simple terracotta pot. Then here I have, I guess you can see where I keep it. It's right here. My little baby bird's nest snake plant, and this is in a pot that I made myself, so obviously that's very special. And this plant is the 2025 plant of the year, so a bit of a spoiler there, but I did film an entire video searching for this plant. It really, any snake plant is the plant of the year for 2025, which I think is truly not fair to the Dracaena Janet Craig, I guess I would say. Like, the plant of the year in 2024 was very specific, and this year it was not. It didn't say, last year it didn't say any Dracaena, but anyway, I think this is a super cute little snake plant, and I like giving my snake plants highlight. They can definitely take low light, but they appreciate highlight. And over here, hanging out on my laundry table, this is where I fold all my laundry, is my Maranta silver band, which I think I need to be watering more. I've talked about it in past videos, how it just hasn't been doing too hot, and I just think I need to be watering it more. It looks kind of dry in there right now, actually, so maybe I'll give this guy some water later, but it's doing fine. It's just looked better. I think this is a super beautiful plant, and I want her to be looking her best. And I thought we could finish this off in my bedroom. Up top on this little plant stand, I have my Pilea peperomioides in this super cute pot. I love this pot so much. And this Pilea, I potted up in this pot, and the pot was so much bigger than the pot it was previously in, but it is loving it. It's doing quite well, and it has put out a ton of different pups. This is such an interesting looking plant. I swear it's doing well, but it's just a weird shaped plant, and so it's always gonna look a little weird, but it has a ton of new growth. And then over on this side is my African violet, which has some spent blooms that I need to clear off, but it's also doing well. I also really love the pot that it's in. It's terracotta, but then the base of it is ceramic, and it has done really well for me. It hasn't bloomed in a minute, but it actually looks like it is working on one, so that's very exciting, and I should really take the time to clean this up. I would say the con of having plants in your bedroom is that they get very dusty in my experience, and this one, I feel like you can just really see the dust on it, so I don't know if the bedroom is the best place for it for that reason. I feel like I have to spray it off a lot, and because it's in a self-watering pot, and the whole point of having it in a self-watering pot is so the leaves don't get wet, I just try not to spray it off, because if you don't know, African violets tend to prefer being bottom watered, at least that's what I've heard, and so I really try not to top water it, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do when the leaves get this gross. I don't know, let me know if you have any ideas. And then on this side I have my variegated heartleaf philodendron, and looking at this, I'm actually wondering, do I even need my regular heartleaf philodendron, because this is so beautiful and yet still has some like fairly green leaves, so maybe this fills the place in my heart, because my normal heartleaf philodendron, it doesn't look too great, but the leaves on this are so beautiful. I really love this plant. I've always loved it. I know this was kind of controversial back when it was a little bit more expensive, and a lot of people said you could just get a marble queen instead, but I like both. I really love both. I like having both in my collection. Then down here is my philodendron cream splash, which is also doing very well. I'm kind of curious. Oh, we got some dripping going on there. I didn't realize the tray was wet. I recently got a backpack situation, so I'm watering all of my plants in place now with a water backpack, and it is working so well for me, and my plants are getting watered so much more. I've only had it for a few weeks, so you know, I guess only time will truly tell, but so far I love it. But it's very much a different process, because before I was picking up my plants and taking them to the sink to water them, and now I can have, you know, situations like this where the tray is a little wet and I have to be careful so that my plants don't sit in water. So that's just a little bit different, but it's definitely worth having to be careful because it's so much easier to keep them watered now. Finally, on this little chair stand is my Hoya australis lisa, which hasn't put out a lot of growth for me lately, but you know, that's fine. She's just looking cute right here. I think that her leaves also look like a watercolor painting, similar to the lechleriana variegata, but just a little bit different, a little more green and a little less white. And finally, I have my Lechleriana Pictum tricolor. I debated having this be the last plant I show in this plant tour for obvious reasons, but I don't know, that's just how it worked out. It is working on a new little stem here, so it's doing fine, but basically what's happened is the bottom of this pot has the teeniest, tiniest drainage hole ever, and when I watered this, I think that no water was getting out, and I just overwatered it that way because it wasn't draining properly, and so that caused all of the leaves to brown and start looking really bad. So I cut them all off, and you saw earlier that I took a cutting as well, but it wants to live. It's putting out this little shoot, so I'm just kind of waiting around to see what happens with this one. I should probably take it out of this pot as well and look at the roots. This kind of seems like it might still be alive, so I'm also considering possibly chopping that down, and then I guess I could potentially have 3 of them, but I don't know, because all the leaves were browning, so I'm not sure if this one has any hope left in it. But anyway, this is the very last plant on my plant tour, so thank you for going around and looking at all of them with me. Those are all of my houseplants. I will put the number up here. How many there are, I don't know how many at this point. I always count them whenever I do the editing for these. I'm guessing it's like 100. That'd be my guess, because last time it was like 95, I think. I don't know. Well, you let me know. Is this a lot? What do you think? And if you made it this far, if you made it all the way through this video, thank you so much. And please take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed it. It would mean so much to me. I'm trying to grow my community here, and I've been making YouTube channels for 4 years now, almost exactly, which is crazy. And I just love it. And again, I do make these videos quarterly. And so if you want to see what my plants look like in the fall, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you see when I post that. And just thank you so much for watching this long video. See you in the next one. Bye.